Season, A Letter to the Future is a 2023 story-driven adventure game by Scavenger Studio about Estelle, a young woman who travels away from her small village for the very first time to document the world and its people before their world comes to an end. Today I'll give a few reasons why this is a game that you might want to play, or perhaps a game you might want to pass on. Play. So let's get the obvious out of the way. The visuals of Season are gorgeous. They're warm and soft. The art design pays very close attention to lighting and shading, and it's a very stylized visual aesthetic. The result is an atmosphere that is beautiful, and you feel really immersed in the world, and you want to take your time and take in the landscape or get closer to see the fine details in the architecture. I marvel each time at seeing the sun and the sky behind the mountains, or taking in the physical characteristics of those unique and interesting looking NPCs. There is also a nice variation in the artwork because the photos Estelle takes or finds out in the world to include in her journal appear to lean a bit more realistic. And Estelle is also an amazing sketch artist who draws her thoughts or what she sees in pencil. Having those layers and variability in the art keeps things interesting, as well as being able to adjust the photos you take by changing the focus or the filters to capture the mood of whatever it is that strikes your fancy. And let's not forget the sound design. It feels like the creators actually went out in nature and captured rain sounds or birds chirping or the sound of wind whistling through holes carved in bamboo. And the voice acting was pretty spot on. Estelle is just so chill and calm, and she really mirrors the atmosphere.
I wish humans had evolved to sing instead of talk.
And all of the voices seemed really fitting to the characters. It was a joy to listen to. Pass. The game mechanics still need a little tightening up. The bike issue is something that was brought up by playtesters, and there appears to have been some improvements, but there still could be some improvements. Estelle would jump off the bike when I didn't want her to jump off the bike, or the bike would get hung up on aspects of the environment or stuck in places, especially when I changed the camera angle as she rode, which I often did to try to get all these different downhill shots to show you guys. But that bike retrieval feature is nice and really keeps the frustration down. Also, the journaling controls would get a bit finicky sometimes, and I'd futz around with it for a while trying to get things how I wanted them, especially if I accidentally tilted something that I didn't want tilted and I couldn't get it straight again, or I wanted to include a quote and the wording wouldn't fit right in the space no matter how I resized it. And there were some occasional issues with frame rate drops and visual flickers. Nothing game breaking, but definitely noticeable. Play. There is an impressive amount of things to do and to see to keep a player interested. Average game length is about 6 to 12 hours because it really does depend on how long you choose to spend in an area and how much you choose to explore. I also spent a lot of time taking the best photos for the journal and organizing each page with intention. There are some quests in the game, some more freeform and others more directed, but nothing difficult or that seemed irrelevant. Everything seemed to have a purpose, because there is definitely more to the story going on here. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Pass. Because a lot of the game is freeform and self-directed, it wasn't always clear what things could be interacted with or what would add more information to the story. And it could be easy to miss some interesting information. Sometimes something would be off in the distance that I thought was just a part of the landscape. However, when I took a picture of the landscape, Estelle would reflect on it, and both the picture and her quote would become part of the journal. So sometimes I would end up spending a lot of time just snapping photos of anything I saw just in case, many of which I discarded, which some players might find annoying after a while. And do you know what else I found annoying? When you clear an area, you can't always go back to the previous area. And since you can't select chapters to return to a previous area if you miss something, well, you just missed it. Play. This game hit me emotionally in a way that I didn't quite expect. When filling out the journal, I didn't just keep the good memories, I kept the bad memories too. I really became invested in creating my collection of memories for the next generation and wanting to show the world as it really was. Pass. This is a slow-paced game. I mean, that's the point, right? This game is about reflection and lingering and taking in the world one experience at a time before everything is washed away. I've heard this game described as a walking simulator on a bike, so that gives you an idea of the pacing. Personally, I enjoy the chill and slow-paced nature of the walking and the dialogue, but there are many players out there that might be a bit frustrated with this. But if you do enjoy games like this, let me know in the comments some of your favorite games where you don't mind just lingering. Play. There's definitely some replayability in this game if you want to replay. When you talk to the NPCs or interview them, there's a branching path of dialogue, so you decide which questions you want to ask and know more about, but that means missing out on questions you didn't ask. And since Estelle writes the story notes in the journal, that also defines what stories are left for the next generation. So if you want to hear all the stories, you have to go back and replay and choose different options. But there are 3 save slots to help with that, so you don't have to overwrite the progress you've already made. New save slot, new experiences. Pass. This wasn't a deal breaker for me, but I figured I'd bring it up. But the characters' mouths don't move when they talk, which makes it kind of weird initially, just having them staring at you while they tell their life story.
What an odd feeling. Like an absence, disappearing.
And I know for some players, this lack of human quality can make it difficult for them to become immersed in the story because it can be visually distracting if you aren't used to that style. Also, the NPC stories are just stories, no cutscenes, because, what they say depends on what you ask. So there will be extended stretches of dialogue at times, but at least things are mostly voice acted, so you won't be tasked with reading those sections. But I know some of you like to spam your way through the dialogue to get to the next thing, so just thought I'd bring it up. And if you're looking for another game about exploring the world and collecting life experiences, I have another review for you right here.